Hey guys, so today we're looking at Michael Brantley's swing. He plays for the Cleveland Indians. Had a really good year last year, and has really put out a solid number of really good years in the past couple. He's kind of flown under the radar, and I think that he doesn't get enough love for being as good a hitter as he actually is. I think he does something that's really interesting in his step that I teach a lot, but not a whole lot of people teach, and I just kind of want to point it out and talk about how important it is. So you'll see he has a very simplistic step. So he just lifts his foot and then just a little teeny bit. Maybe he doesn't even get it fully off the ground. Lifts his foot a little bit. And then you'll see what he does here is he does a really good job of sliding his hips forward like this while stretching his upper half back. So you'll see that when he starts, he's standing pretty straight up. But when he gets to heel plant, you'll see that his hips have worked out from under his shoulders and he's leaning back. Now, this is really important for being able to launch the ball up, but then also being able to keep our head still and sitting behind our front leg when we turn. So if we can slide our hips out from under our shoulders and move them forward while stretching our upper half back, then it sets a really nice angle for us between our head and our front leg like this, that we can then rotate our spine around. And you can see he does an excellent job with that while simultaneously pulling his back knee in front of his face. So if I drew a line straight up from his back knee, it would be in front of his face. So we know his spine angle is back, which allows his swing plane to be a little up because we know that the swing roughly is perpendicular to the spine angle. So if Brantley were leaning forward like this, his swing would probably be down like this. So this really allows him to get behind the ball really easily and really allows him to, do things with his upper half in a very variable way and use his upper half really however he wants to and still be on plane with the pitch as it comes in. And you can see how the catcher's glove is back here. You can see his bat intersecting the path of the pitch back here behind by the catcher's mitt and then staying on plane this whole way, really giving him a lot of room for error. And that's one of the reasons why he's able to put up really good batting average numbers and, decent power numbers as well. But this is something that, is somewhat, I don't want to say new because there have been people teaching this for a while, but in the standard version of rotational hitting that usually people teach, usually coaches want, they want the head stacked on top of the pelvis. So it's kind of like this. And this actually works in developing the most exit velocity. So if the head is stacked on top of the pelvis and we're straight up and down, then the bat speed that we can get going in this direction, the horizontal direction, will be the greatest bat speed that we can possibly accomplish, and we can generate a ton of power going this way. But the problem is all that power is kind of going like this, and it's not really creating the launch angles that we want. So what we want to do is we want to turn it up a little bit, so that way we can get in the way of the ball and generate a lot of force, but we can also generate that force in a direction that makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish on a baseball or softball field. So this sliding the hips out from under the shoulders is a really, really important move. And I'm going to share with you guys a drill that you can use to be able to teach this a little bit better. So I'm going to go to that right now. I'm just going to kind of compare this video to that video, and we'll go from there. So give me 1 second. Okay, so you're going to see me doing this drill. So this drill, you can really do it any way you want. You can do it with a leg lift, or you can do it kind of in the way that Brantley does it. And I'll just kind of go back to the beginning of his swing or the beginning of his step to kind of remind you. He just barely picks his toe up off the ground. I think the easiest way to do this drill that I'm about to show you for younger kids is to do the leg lift, just because it makes it very obvious, and it forces them to be really stable in their core when they do this drill, which is a hugely important thing for younger kids. So you can see he slides those hips forward, not much of a leg lift at all. He barely gets that toe up off the ground, if he does at all. You can kind of see there's a little air under it right here when we start, but we really can't catch the beginning of that turn. Those hips slide out, shoulders stretch back, and then he turns. So I want you to imagine right here, I want you to imagine there being a wall right here on Brantley, okay? And I'm going to pretend that there's a kickball right here on his hip, okay? And the wall would be where the kickball is kind of touching like this. Now it would kind of cut his foot off, so he'd have to do something a little bit different with his front leg to be able to feel the drill. But the problem with a lot of hitters is when they go to get started, they slide this back hip backwards and the kickball would fall away from the wall. And you'll see that when Brantley does his step forward, or when he begins his load, he slides his hip into the kickball and squishes it against the wall while leaning his shoulders back, which is why this drill is such an important one for all hitters to do. So here I am with the kickball on the wall. I squish it and lean my shoulders back simultaneously. So usually the words that I use when I'm doing this are sit your lower half forward and stretch your upper half back. This creates that really nice rubber band effect that we see Brantley have here right at his landing. Okay, it's a lot of distance between his back shoulder and front hip, which really allows him to rubber band his bat through the zone. Another thing that I want you guys to notice is how much Brantley's head drops when he starts. Okay, and you'll see that in order to do this drill right, when you look on the left here at myself, you'll see that a very similar thing has to happen. So here we are, drew a line at the top of Brantley's head. Okay, you'll see as he steps, that head goes down. So he's getting into the ground, which allows his legs to interact with the ground to be able to kind of spin the earth. I've talked about this in other videos before, but it's hugely important. If we're not connected to the ground, then we can't get a lot of force from the ground. So when we do this drill, getting our head to really drop like this allows us to feel the sinking in to our hips of the movement that we're really looking to establish, to be able to grab the ground with our legs and really interact with the ground, somewhat similar to the way that you might interact with the ground when you're doing a deadlift. You slide your hips too far back in the beginning, the ball falls. And that's an indicator that we got stuck on our back leg. And that's never something that we want to do, because if we do that, then we're going to not be able to get to this position where we have a solid amount of weight on both feet, so we can actually turn our body and utilize the ground properly in order to get the most force possible transferred up our chain to our bat. So it's really important to work on the ball and the wall drill. It really helps you manipulate that spine as you move forward, as well as slide your pelvis out. And then you can transition to doing it in your full step, so you can learn how to do the movements that happen afterwards. And really what I talk about with kids is trying to maintain the angles that you create when you squish the ball while you're doing your full step. So you can see as I go forward, my butt slides out, similar to Brantley's. You can see how my hip is out here in front of my face, which creates this nice angle between my foot and my head. And when we first do this, we don't really want to care too much about the way we land, because if we really focus on our landing, then it's hard for us to manipulate the way that we're doing our step. And it's really important that we get that right first. And once you get that movement, then you can figure out how to do your actual landing, so you can create that really good stretch between back shoulder and front hip. That's something that Brantley does really well. And as long as he continues doing this really well, then he's going to be a really good hitter in the MLB for a long time. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that may come to mind. Feel free to shoot me an email, kurt@ignitebaseball.org. Subscribe to my page. Give me a follow. It's greatly appreciated. Hope to talk to you guys soon.